Peter Parker's body shrieked at him from deep within the pit of his stomach. Waves of adrenaline flooded through his entire body. It rushed from his heart, crashing through every blood vessel, and burst into his brain, igniting his synapses in a sparkling web of electricity. This high-octane energy coursed through his cerebrum, vibrating his molecules with each heartbeat. Instantly, his senses ramped up into overdrive, his eyes dilated, and his field of view expanded out in front of him. He was standing on top of a gridlock bridge, hundreds of cars stretched out before him and behind. His sense of smell, hearing, and sight congealed together, forming a dome of interwoven hyper-awareness around him. His mind could absorb all the information on the bridge. He heard the dog barking out the window of a Jeep 4 cars behind him. He heard the couple belting out show tunes 2 cars to his left. He saw the gentleman that just spilled his hot coffee on his lap, screaming and slapping his own groin with napkins. The whole world seemed to spread open around him. Any sudden movement, and his eyes would snap onto it. They could focus and zoom in to inspect every detail. And right now, Peter Parker saw the faces of dozens of frightened people fleeing their cars and sprinting towards him. Screams ignited the air. Peter didn't know what was happening, but he knew it wasn't good. Cars began launching into the air as a shining flicker of metal rocketed upwards. Smoke erupted in its wake. Peter's veins popped out as the adrenaline pushed through them. His senses had finally honed in on the danger. His focus clung to one smoke-filled area. Titanium claws pierced the sky and then dove down and crushed the cars underneath its weight. More claws arced into the air and rained down upon the earth like unsheathed arrows. The claws squeezed the vehicles and gripped the concrete as a body gently hoisted upwards through the smoke. The face that emerged from the smoke greeted Peter by name. Peter was flabbergasted because he didn't remember him. The mysterious man wore shades, a dark trench coat, and 4 giant mechanical arms jutting out from behind him. Peter was pretty sure he wouldn't forget a guy like that. The man interrogated Peter about the location of his machine that could put the power of the sun in the palm of his hand. Of course, Peter was baffled. He had no idea what machine he was referring to. Only this guy did not appreciate his confusion. "I don't know" was clearly not an answer he was looking for. He stabbed 2 SUVs through the roof with his claws and launched them at Peter simultaneously. He acrobatically dodged the first SUV, flipping away, but the second one was a different story. It crashed into him and Peter tried to catch it, but the impact sent him sliding backwards and into a black SUV. This vehicle contained Paula, an MIT admissions representative who was currently stuck in the back seat of the vehicle due to a tricky seatbelt. Paula was an honest woman who had just endured Peter's poorly executed speech, begging her to reconsider admitting his friends to her school. Paula was not persuaded and planned on continuing her day unaffected by his words, until Peter and that recently flung SUV ricocheted upwards and flipped over her car, into the air and off the top of the bridge. In a pure freefall, Peter realized that there was an entire family in the SUV and the ground seemed anxious to meet them. He flung his webs upwards to the bridge and caught the vehicle like drool dangling from the lips of a sleeping toddler. He quickly ripped the doors off and evacuated the family, bringing them back topside of the bridge. They ran off without even thanking Peter, but he was used to it. And immediately the multi-armed villain grabbed him. Doc Ock smashed Peter back into Paula's SUV, causing her vehicle to break the barrier at the edge of the bridge. It barely clung onto the bridge and any sudden moves could send the SUV over the edge. She was trapped. Doc Ock flung Peter away like a used cigarette. He flew through an overhead sign and crash-landed through the windshield of a UPS truck. He pushed the fallen boxes off his face and launched himself out of the truck with the use of his suit's mechanical spider arms. They attacked each other. It was a battle of the armies of arms. There was a fury of blows, echoes of metal clashing against metal, arms everywhere. Peter had to get close enough to do some real damage. He smashed Doc Ock against the car and was about to punch him in the face when another arm came from his left and flung Peter off of him and into another car. He escaped with a backflip that knocked Doc Ock backwards, and Peter landed on his feet in between 2 vehicles. Doc Ock grabbed both vehicles and smashed them together to squish Peter like a bug. Peter jumped into the air and web slung away, but Doc Ock was in hot pursuit. He threw one of his long arms at the overhead sign that Peter had just swung to. Peter tried to web shoot him, but Doc Ock blocked each burst. Peter dove down through the structural components of the sign and web flung himself upwards, kicking Doc Ock. Then Peter heard Paula's screams as her car slid further and further off the bridge. Paula freed herself from the seatbelt, but her door was stuck against the edge of the bridge. There was no way out. She screamed for help and Peter dived off the sign to save her. Doc Ock caught him mid-air like he was a flying cheerleader. There was a news helicopter overhead, and Doc Ock attached an arm to its tail and pulled the chopper closer, attempting to lob Peter's head off with the back propeller. Peter struggled against the arms but couldn't free himself. Moments away from certain death, an idea surfaces. Peter web slings 2 cars from the ground up into the sign. The crash threw Doc Ock off balance. He released the chopper and Peter, who raced towards the screaming woman. Doc Ock threw everything he had at him. Cars, pipes, anything he could grab. Peter dodged it all and slid jumped through a barrage of claws, all trying to stab him. Peter webbed each arm that he dodged to the spot in efforts to slow Doc Ock down, but it didn't stop him from long. Peter was less than 50 feet from the vehicle as it slowly slid off the edge. He took aim with his web slinger and was attacked from behind by a giant plumbing cement pipe. The impact crushed him into a vehicle, but Peter didn't stop. He kept running towards her screams. The car's full front end was hanging off the bridge. There was no time left. Paula rebuckled her seatbelt, preparing for the worst. Doc Ock launched another car at Peter from behind. Every hair on Peter's arms stood up on end like lightning rods tuned for electricity. Each one could sense the slightest change in temperature, wind, and even pressure. This heightened sense gave him the ability to feel the oncoming air molecules smashing against his back before the attacking car reached him. This was the only signal Peter had that a car was flying through the air towards his head. He propelled himself into the air, backflipping over the car, then shot his web slinger at the exact moment that the SUV toppled over the edge. The weight of the whip hit him immediately. It drug him across the concrete and over the edge. Instantly, a suit's arm shot out for the bridge and caught them both. He attached the car to the bridge and secured it with more webs. He went to check on the woman and make sure she was safe, but Doc Ock arrived beneath the bridge and grabbed Peter. He flung him through the bridge. Cement and metal bars raked Peter's back until he reached the top side of the bridge, but then it was right back down again. Doc Ock slammed him against the metal supports underneath the bridge and snatched off a piece of his nanobot suit. Doc Ock absorbed the nanobots and integrated them into his system, strengthening it. He transformed one of his claws into a dagger and launched it at Peter's exposed chest. Peter's nanobot suit had only moments to react. His mask quickly dissipated and reassembled over his chest, protecting him. The knife bent, barely penetrating the suit and only stabbing Peter's thigh. Peter's face was revealed. Now Doc Ock was confused because this wasn't the Peter Parker that he knew. Peter's suit notified him that the nanobots had a new connection, Doc Ock's arms. He quickly synced their suits and took control of Doc Ock's arms, releasing himself and pulling Paula back to safety. She thanked Peter and told him that he was a hero and that MIT would reconsider his friends.